So I've finished the 600 for now and it's ready for MOT. I also played around with the gearing and changed the front sprocket, and the exhaust is on, as you know, it's ready for MOT, that is. So I'm back now on the 650, and as you can see I've stripped it all down, ready to do the suspension work. So I got all the plastics off, and then swinging arm came off and the rear shock. I will be doing the front shocks as well. These are usually the main spindles through the frame. They're usually quite troublesome to get out, but luckily I'd been lubing it up with penetrating oil the last couple of weeks in all the joints, and while I was riding it around the garden it worked right through it. So this came out so easy, I was surprised it more or less pushed out with my fingers. So I was glad that worked. I'll be replacing all these bearings here and in the swinging arm. Also, I've cleaned the shock absorber up, ready to be sent away to be serviced and rebuilt, regassed. Before I send it away, I'll be removing this top bearing because I want to replace that bearing. So I'm going to be using this bearing pullers. They're the Sealy one. They're a bit expensive, but the cheaper ones I've had before, and these collars snap, so don't be tempted with the cheaper ones. As you can see, it's nearly all the way out. Also check in the book which way. Some of these only go in and out one way, so it's away from the reservoir, as we can see on the book here. And that's the bearing out. As you can see, as you tighten this into this collar, it expands on the bearing and you can hammer it out then. I used to struggle getting these bearings out, but you can end up damaging things, so I invested in that tool and it's been really great for doing swinging arms. Okay, here's my parts cleaner, and I'll put everything through here before I fit the new bearings. As you can see, it's quite effective, but it's a messy job. Few more to go. This is them before they start. Also, I'll do the chain slider. Struggle to get some of it off sometimes, so I scrape it with a blade. Be a shame to get the bike dirty after all this. Okay, all the swinging arm bits have been through the parts cleaner and the swinging arm itself, so that's nice and clean. It's got a fair bit of damage on it, which I'm not sure what I can do about that yet, but it's all ready now to change the bearings. Also, all the linkages have been done. Had a bit of corrosion on the spindles, so it would run dry on grease at some point. And to clean the stand up, that's going to need spraying. And to clean the chain guide up. And even the chain slider, that's come up pretty good. So while I'm waiting for the bearings, I'll put some Pro Care on it, stop things corroding. Before I put the swinging arm back, I'll have to clean all this up in here. I'm doing the swinging arm bearings, and you can see I've had that one out. So I'm going to get this other one out. There's two double bearings in there, one behind the other. Now ideally I'd use a press, but I haven't got a press, so I'm going to use a slide hammer, and I'm going to use a vice and sockets to press them back in. So a slide hammer is quite effective, but you've got to be careful that you keep it straight so you don't damage your surface in here. And I'll show you how I set it up. Okay, that's 25mm. My next size down is too small in there, and this is a little bit too big. So I gotta wiggle it in past the bearing, because these bearings are coming out. I don't mind if the bearing damages a bit. There, you can see, maybe if the camera picks it up, you can see it's in on the first bearing. So I'm going to grab the edge of that first bearing. So how I do that is I'll push it up to there and then tighten it. If I left it there and tightened it, it'd probably strip the rollers out and leave the race behind. So you just, when you're using a slide hammer, you just got to be careful of how you set it up. And that's the bearing out. That's another one out. I measure the old bearing first, then 2, then measure the new bearing, 32. You want to do that just in case, because they're aftermarket bearings. If they were a lot bigger, you'd risk damaging the swinging arm. So I always check the measurements first on the new parts. They compare with the old parts. Also, when I'm studying the book, the depth of the bearings, that's the bearing there. I'm using an old socket to push it in. The depth you want to push a bearing in, on the outside is a 5mm depth, on the inside is a 4mm depth. So what I do, I just write it on with a pencil so I don't forget. It's not an ideal way to do it. I need a hydraulic press, but I haven't got one of those. So I'm using the vice now. So you've got to make sure that you keep it dead straight, and if you see it stand go off to one side, I stop and readjust it. And this bearing's going all the way in because it's the deepest one. So I've made sure my socket fits through the swinging arm. A little bit awkward to measure because we're at an angle. Okay. Also, I've got a step in my gauge, so if that catches the top, I'll have a false reading, so I need to turn it round on the smooth edge. And push it down. Can't get it quite square there. See what we got. 5.18. So I was only 1 mil out when I stopped, so I stopped just in time. I need to push it just a touch more. He's on full. Yeah, we're okay. So that's the new bearings in. I will be doing the other side. I'm not going to video it all because that'll be really boring. And after I've done that, I'll put new seals in on the sides and new seals here, and then I got all these bearings to change as well. I've done the swinging arm bearings, new bearings and seals are in, and you saw me pushing them in with the vice because I haven't got a press. So that's done, ready to put all the attachments on. Also need cleaning again because of all the grease marks on it. But now I'm doing the linkage bearings. This linkage here, I don't want to put this in the vice because this linkage isn't very strong and I could easily break it. So I'm pulling it in. I've improvised with using a threaded bar. It's quite a simple idea. I got a socket here and that's the new bearing there, and simply that's all I'm doing is tightening the nut and squeezing the bearing in or pulling it in. Right, you can see I'm getting close now. The washers are nearly on the surface. So what I'll do now, I'll add a small socket in between which fits inside, and I can get the bearings to the 6 mil depth is what it's meant to be. Six 1.5, that's close enough. So that's a 6 mil. Then I'll go on to the other side. I'm pressing the bearings out of the shock arm, as you can see. I won't video going through it all because we've done it on the others. So small socket that fits inside, pushes the bearing, big socket outside, and just push it through with that. What I found on the link arm, this damage here, the score marks, I've been trying to identify how that could have happened, because these should prevent that from happening, from possibly over tightening. But what I think, either it has been over tightened or it's just been on there so long that it's worn. But I think that's why it's important to get the bearing depths correct. So this is how I do it. I line them out in stages as they come out, like that, 1, 2 and 3. I call them short, medium and long, because you got short there, medium there and long there. So short, medium, long. So I put it out like this. The bench is getting a bit busy now because there's so much going on. But so I write down the actual depths of the bearing from each side. So it was on 2mm, 5.5 and 6. And the book says it's 2, so that was about right. 5.4, so yeah, that's about right. And 6.2. So all the depths were right on it, which leads me to believe that it was the stock bearings and they'd never been out. So possibly this damaged was caused just because they'd never been out run dry on grease, and I'm not sure really. If anyone's got an opinion on why that was scored up there, let me know. Okay, and the depths, I double check in the book, in the workshop manual. You got the depths here. This is the long shaft, and you can see these arrows here indicate the depth it's inside. So you got 6 to 6.2, medium shaft you got 5 to 5.6, short 1.9 to 2.1. So all the depths were within tolerance. So, but I'll be putting in the new bearings, and it's important just to get those depths right. All these bearings have been done, and it's ready to go back on. So this is the bike as it is at the moment. While I was waiting for some parts, I pulled the front end off. I'll be doing the steering head bearings in another video, and the front shocks. While everything was apart, I cleaned everything up here, because the front sprocket always gets really greasy there. Putting all these linkages on is pretty straightforward, but what I'm going to show is how to do the adjustment on the swinging arm using this design Honda's got for the swinging arm adjustment. Okay, the main swinging arm bolt, it goes in on the wrong way to start with to set up the adjustment. So it's supposed to be that way when you finish, but just to set it up to hold it, you put it in this way. Okay, you push the swinging arm shaft through from the wrong side, and that's just to hold it in place while you do your adjustment nut. Okay, that's the adjustment nut. and you need a special tool to turn it. So my dad actually made me this one, and it's a diesel injector remover which we modified and filed down so it fits. So it fits the adjustment there. Okay, and then the lock-in nut, we made another one. So it fits there. I've written it down. So firstly you go to 12 Newton meters. I'll go to 10 first to see what it feels like. Yeah, that's 10. That's 12 Newton meters. Then it says to return it to 0. So we're slacken it off. Take it to 0, which is that. And then take it up to 7 Newton meters. That's 7 there. Okay, so you're done with that one. Then you'll be putting the lock-in nut in. We'll take it up to 64 Newton meters, but I'll do it in 2 stages to see what it's like. That's 48. Now up to 64. So that's how we do it. You push the swinging arm bolt through the wrong way just to hold it in place. You tighten up the adjustment nut firstly to 12, then slacken it off, then to 7 Newton meters. Then you put in your lock-in nut for the adjustment nut, and I took it up to 64 Newton meters in 2 stages. Now we're going to tap this back out. It's a bit stiff because it's going through the center here, and then put it in from the right way.
Okay, so this is how you're gonna do it. Turn until it's so tight and I can't turn it. So what I'm gonna do now, take it off.
No. Check the swinging arm is still free, you're not snagging on anything.
Okay.
And this one is 108 Newton meters.
And so?
But I'll take it up to 50 first and do it in stages. Okay, that's 50. You need, ready?
Yeah, I'm holding.
You need 3 sets of hands here. So I've got my wife supporting the front of the bike. Well, I take this up to the final torque of 108.
Right there.
Ready?
Ready?
That's it. Okay. You check then. The swinging arm is still free. And nothing's gone wrong. All the seals are still in place. That's how you do the adjustment on the swinging arm. I think Honda's using that idea rather than using shims. Maybe because it's an aluminium frame. I'm not sure the reason why, but that's how the book said to do it.